I'm Carole Robinson. Welcome to this edition of County Happenings, where we find out what's going on in the county by talking to the one who knows, the County Mayor, Roger Sanderson.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Well, the last time I saw you, I believe we were standing at 5 Points.
Yes, sir. In a nice hot day, but a beautiful, beautiful moving ceremony. Memorial Day is what we're referring to. And anybody who missed that ceremony missed something that was really tugged at your heart. Stan Tyson did a special dedication, dedicated 20 bricks from guys who died during a battle, the Battle of 10 Alpha in Vietnam, during Vietnam, and that happened 50 years prior to the date of the Memorial Day, which is more than a coincidence. It's amazing that the timing on that.
I suspect that we had several hundred people there.
Yeah.
And every year it continues to amaze me by the number of participants and those in attendance on these. This year it was hot. Last year it was pouring down rain. And we have it rain or shine. We move it inside or outside. And of course Stan just did a stellar job of, for about 20 good minutes, in the hot sun, standing there talking through the events that led up to the exchange of gunfire to the final
Loss of life.
Loss of life. And several of those men took the time to come back. We oftentimes fail to remember. I know when I was in the service, and I know your husband, everyone flies in from, or comes in, if they fly, or by train, or by car, to a particular barracks, and they're from every point in the United States. And so all of a sudden you're thrown into a group of men that have different values. They look different. They talk different. Some have hair, some don't during my time. But we all, in just a matter of a few hours, I had one thing in common. We didn't have any hair.
Right.
And everybody wore the same uniform. And people that are watching this show can remember they are taking everything out of your billfold. Everybody has to turn that in. I guess, I don't remember, I wasn't married at that time, but I think they did allow the married men to keep one photo of their wife and children, but it had to be in the same photo. I think that was true. But the rest of it was turned in. You picked it up after you finished basic. Now, I didn't care, Marine, Air Force, Navy, it did the Coast, it was all the same, and they were getting everybody to a common denominator, that no one was greater than the other one, and you had to learn to play as a team member. And Stan demonstrated what happens when you do those things. Now, doing that event is nothing, but it's over a series of weeks and months worth of training that you truly do understand the motto of not leaving anyone behind, and even in those awful, awful situations,
They knew somebody had their back.
they had somebody had their back.
Because it could have been much worse, considering they were surrounded by, this was a group of, I think at their highest point had 250 men, surrounded by thousands of North Vietnamese. And they won the battle.
It's often hard for several of us, and Stan, we don't talk about those things. It was very heroic of Stan to take that initiative to talk about that, because that's not Stan's character.
No, it isn't. It's
it was
like
very
many of
moving.
y'all that have been in the military. That was something you did. You did it because it needed to be done, and now we're moving on.
And you follow orders. You may not like it,
Right.
but the orders came down, and you do the things like that. But at the end of the day, Stan and many others remember those things, but it was in a different life, a different era. 50 years ago for Stan, almost 50 for me, from the time that I was there in Vietnam. And you file that away in a different part of your memory, and occasionally something triggers it, you talk about it, you relive those emotions. That's what Stan did. And for those men and those family members that traveled in from other parts of the United States to take a few minutes out to say thank you for those brothers, sons, and that gave the all. And that's what Memorial Day service is all about. Stan almost gave it all.
For all of you, any of you who were there and saw it, he's fine now.
He was so apprehensive, but in a positive way, excited, and Stan, of course, his heart is bigger than this table to talk about the event.
And I think we neglected to say, he was part of the leadership.
Oh,
of
yes.
this.
Yeah, he was ultimately responsible for his particular group. But during the ceremonies, he went on for 20 minutes, didn't take a break, didn't drink any water,
And
had a
didn't
coat
speak
and tie.
anything. He never said a word about himself.
No. And so when he finished, he went over to sit down, and the next part of it, we do the actual ceremony, folding the flags and and all the the taps and the retiring of the flags, et cetera, which was 10 minutes probably after he got through spoken. Well, I looked over when I received the flag and was handed to him. He was a little pale.
Little.
And the flag I gave to him, the folded flag, which was part of the ceremony, and he went to sit down, and he was having trouble just getting. He had gotten too hot.
Yes, he had.
And fortunately, the ceremony was ending, and there were people there that could attend to his needs.
They came from everywhere.
They came from everywhere. We had nurses and doctors there, and the paramedics were there from.
And Stan still curses the person who put cold water on his chest.
That's right. I think the most embarrassing part, they took his socks and shoes off and elevated his feet, and he said he hadn't done his nails, but he was in good spirits. But they took him over to the hospital, checked him out, put fluids in him, and he went back home, and Dorothy, his wife, I'm sure, had him, they let him rest a little for the rest of the afternoon.
Before she sent him out with the honey-do list.
The honey-do list. But he's doing fine, and of course he is well thought of, and Stan is in his mid-80s and still very, very active, so you always worry about that, but he's in good shape and good health, and his father lived to be over 100. So
he's got good genes.
He's got good gene. He has a good gene pool, but he was at it fast and furious the next day.
Yeah, he was. So, but anyway, it was anybody who missed the Memorial Day ceremony, don't miss the next one, because they are very moving, and it reminds you of how we got to where we are today, and the freedoms we have, and the people who sacrificed.
You know, it's not something we scripted this morning, and none of us as military or civilians like war.
No.
Nothing good comes out of war except you either win or lose. And in Vietnam, you didn't do either one of those because it wasn't declared until later on. And so you were in the defensive mode. And so without getting all the history of how we got there and the consequences thereafter, and then you look at today's events that are occurring in our society, shootings, it just wonder sometimes what is going on. How do you explain all this?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to turn it into a political show. There's those that would argue, do away with assault weapons and all guns and weapons, and then the other side, no, you need to protect yourself. But all of those years, all the wars we've ever had, particularly here in the United States, I mean, they go back to the beginning of time. But in the United States, particularly in the last 100 to 150 years that either you and I have read about and followed them or actually lived through them, how come we don't remember history? It seems to repeat
we just
itself.
love to repeat itself, and we just don't learn from the lessons. And if we could only learn from the lessons of what we've done wrong, what we've done right, perhaps we could limit what we're doing.
You know, you and I are going to disagree. You're going to disagree with your husband. We're going to disagree with each other. But killing people is not the answer.
Yeah, bottom line is we're still Americans. And that's that's the special thing about living in this country, as we can disagree, and and we can live our lives differently.
And it's healthy to disagree. It's not.
Yeah.
Not everybody's perfect
What is
like
it
you
Dave
and
Ramsey
me.
always say? Yeah. If two people always agree on something, one of them is irrelevant.
Yes. Yeah, well, I didn't mean to get off on the kind of a sidetrack, but as I get older and I look at my grandchildren like you do, I am concerned for the future. I'm sure our parents thought that when we brought our children, their grandparents home. Where are we at in society? What have we learned? But as older I get, I realize, and next month I'm going to my 50th class reunion, so I'm telling you how old I am. It's something I've looked forward to for several years, to see all of those old folks in my graduate.
Luckily, you're not old.
I understand.
They're going to say, "What happened to you? Did you go into a time thing or what?"
Yeah, right. But as older you get, and I think that we all think about, we were just introducing to one of the new people here that we remember when he was
a toddler.
A toddler in diapers, and we all knew his dad and knew of his mom, and see her and how he's grown up to an 18, 19-year-old boy now.
A very fine 18, 19-year-old boy.
And you look at people like Newt, who's editor, director, kind of headed up his Channel 3 and going to be retired at the end of the year. We probably need to interview him before he goes, because he could tell us about the changes. But lots of technologies in this room that wasn't not even around during the 20 and 30 years ago, and that's true about our society.
This whole TV production class started 20 years ago.
And it's true about our society, but things do tend to repeat themselves, and we need to remember that, because those kind of services that we had, finishing out this circle, I don't know that they'll ever be avoided, but we could do a better job of communicating and discussing, and killing people is not the answer, whether it's in a nightclub or one-on-one or in war. There's got to be other ways that we can figure out to do it. And I am very strong in my political opinions on that. National security should be one of the premier things that we always pay for, and locally too, but we've got to do a better job.
Yeah, and that would probably be a really good another show to talk about what we can do. But some of the things we're doing locally, we have some new road discussions going on.
So about...
Because we're getting a little crowded again. We just opened that I-65, but it's already crowded.
People tell me we've got traffic congestion all over this county. And
I got behind a tractor today.
Now you're in the unincorporated area. So let's kind of define that again, so the people that watch the show understand. If you live in the unincorporated area outside the city limits, there's a part of your tax base goes to keeping, maintaining, building roads that are county roads. If you live in the cities, you do not pay that tax because your taxes go for the city side. So you can't tax people in the unincorporated area and build roads in the city. So that's important to remember as we have this discussion of traffic congestion in our county. Where's it coming from? Well, you and I know if you live in the Sneed Road, let's take that area of our county, a lot of that traffic on Sneed Road going over to Cool Springs is coming from Bellevue.
Right.
Davidson County. But Davidson County doesn't pay for roads in Williamson County, nor do we pay for roads in Davidson County. But it's still traffic congestion. So the County Highway Department under Eddie Hood decided late last summer, that we need to commission someone through a consulting firm, and we chose RPM and Collier Engineering to tell us, go up 40,000 feet, find the 4 or 5, half a dozen different roads, and tell us what we could do to improve the traffic conditions, and break that down into a couple of phases, one being 2020, one 2025, and one 2030. Then tell us what we could do, and tell us what it's going to cost, and et cetera, so that we can begin to address not just what Eddie does with his 75 plus men on a daily basis, building bridges, maintaining our roads, but really looking at addressing main corridors that a lot of traffic is into. Sneed Road, Arno Road both have somewhere between 11 and 13, 14,000 cars a day. They call those traffic count numbers, and they vary at 7:30 in the morning versus 12 versus 4, but the average, they use an average daily count, and then tell us, based on that, based on safety and traffic count, where should we be spending our money and where can we do the best and the most good. The report came back to address the following roads: Sneed Road, Arno Road, Clovercroft Road, Linwood Way, and they also suggested we look at the intersection of Henpeck Lane that runs into Columbia Pike and Coleman Road.
Right.
They don't
They
match
don't
up.
fit, yeah.
They're apart.
Yeah.
And what can we do? Lots of accidents there at that intersection. Triune. You've heard us talk about different intersections. Some of the intersections are state roads,
Right.
2 state roads that come together. Some are county state, some are county city state, and some are state, county, city, federal. So there's a
Whole mess of things.
whole mess of things, but people that are setting in traffic could care less of my explanation.
Exactly.
They just want to go. So that study came back to say we need to address those roads, and these are things we could do. So the Highway Commission, made up of 4 people and myself, in the month of July and in the month of August, we'll be talking about these, looking at the impact by making traffic signalizations, if that is possible, at intersections where roads come together, maybe making some turn lanes, exit, decelerating lanes, call them what you want. That first phase of addressing roads and getting that corrected by 2020 to 2021 will be about $25 million. Now, a lot of those roads are coming into cities. For an example, Arno Road, if you're familiar with Arno Road, runs into Highway 96.
And that's a state road.
That's a state road. If you went across Linwood Way, that was one of the locations, which was the old Moore's Lane extension from
Right.
Franklin Road.
And then it becomes Berry's Chapel.
Yes. So you go from
Over the
Hillsborough
hill.
Road over the hill, which was built about 20 years ago now. But if you come from the Hillsborough Road side, go over the mountain, come down, you're on the left-hand side, the last half of the mile, you literally are in Brentwood, and on the right-hand side, you're in Franklin. They meet in the center
Center of the road.
center of the road. And the county comes down, and they annexed that shortly after we built it. And so you've got 2 cities and a county that's dumping into Franklin Road, which is a state
State
road.
road.
So you're going to have a lot of conversations. We're talking about communications with each one of these to be able to do the things that the study says that they are needed to do. Hopefully by doing this, we'll still help the flow, help the safety issues on those main corridors. Now simultaneously, the city of Franklin's got road projects going on. Hillsborough Road is
Right.
one of them. Carruthers are looking at some of them. The state's got lots of work going on in our county. They've just finished up at the Paytonsville Road Bridge, but they're also doing another portion of it down all the way down to 840. They've got a project going on from Concord Road back down to Moore's Lane on Franklin Road, going to widen it, straighten it out. There's certainly Concord Road itself, all the way across the interchange. So lots of things are happening, and nobody's working in the other one's jurisdiction, but we're trying to make all of this synchronization so traffic flows. Now, I don't know that we can get ahead of it today or even by 2020 because
We're growing too fast.
you've got growth going in there. But you've got the Mack Hatcher that's been talked about for at least 10 years.
Oh my gosh, longer than that, yeah.
And it comes over from Hillsborough Road, it comes back over to New Highway 96. And then no one's talking about New Highway 96 back over to Columbia Avenue to complete that circle.
Right.
But eventually that's got to occur. So lots of effort, lots of things are, lots of groups are meeting, trying to figure and find out solutions. I know there's a corridor study that I serve on that just handles the Cool Springs area, looking at all those folks that are working over there, all those businesses over there, which we greatly appreciate. They
Yeah.
pay a lot of tax dollars.
And all those people that are going to be living there.
And the people that are going to be living there, if all of them have to get in their car to go out and eat lunch,
Yes.
it's traffic.
It's crazy.
So
Yeah.
what could we do from circular, taking the Franklin trolleys or some other vehicle, and make a circle round every 15, 30 minutes? What would that cost? And pick these people up and just go by the different restaurants. Now, that needs to be expanded to the entire
Right.
Cool Springs business district, but you got to start somewhere because more and more people are coming in there, and you
And
can't close the gate.
Yeah, and the restaurants don't have enough parking for these people, and yeah, you can't even move in Cool Springs between 11:30 and 2 o'clock.
So traffic congestion with growth and people, that will lead us into the next discussion on economic development. I heard John Schroer say the other day when we were doing the ribbon cutting on the bridge that one of the late governors that we had, I think he said it was McWhirter, said good roads and good schools equal good communities. And I like to throw a little twist on that good roads and good schools bring good jobs and
good people.
and good people and a quality of life that we've come to expect here. Now, many people, and over the last 20 years, 25 years, we have aggressively and actively tried to recruit businesses to come to our area. Many of them you would know, Nissan and Verizon and Tractor Supply, Healthways, Primus, I could name them all, that have had an impact of helping. Government doesn't create jobs, we're just a conduit. And
You make it an atmosphere where jobs can be created.
That's right. And when you have good schools and you have good roads, people want to locate, and then you have this quality of life that everyone is enjoying here in our community. Some of it's an outgrowth of Davidson County that comes here, or Wilson County, or Robertson County, any of the touching counties around Davidson County. And we've been approached. The county commission has voted by a majority vote to do another tax incentive for a company that hopefully in the very distant near future we will have an announcement to bring another 1,100 jobs to the Cool Springs area. And those jobs, 1,100 jobs, so we're given a tax credit of about $2,100,000 over a 10-year period, but it's a $79 million investment. And then all the sales tax, people go out and buy the groceries and things. Yes, they bring people, they bring families, they bring children, you got to do schools, got to
But
do more
hopefully they'll also hire from the area.
Yes. The average wages on this particular firm was $73,000. Those kind of high-end engineering jobs, R&D, it's just amazing how many people are looking at our area. You mentioned Dave Ramsey earlier. He's trying to relocate down to the
Berry Farms.
Barry's Farm area. You've got Lee Electric and Air Conditioning, that they were teetering and looking at evaluating where they needed to be, and they could have gone to Alabama. They have a facility there. They could have stayed in Nashville. But we were able to work with these people and encourage them to come here, both Franklin, the state, and the county, to help them to stay in the community and keep those jobs here. Williamson County is blessed. We say that all the time. Our unemployment rate this last month, during the month of May, that comes out in the first part of June, was 2.7%.
It's almost total employment.
That's almost total. Anything 3% and under, people are working. Now that creates problems.
Yeah.
There's not enough workers to do the things.
Now, when we say tax breaks, how does that affect the average taxpayer?
Great
And I know
question.
people want to know, Why are you giving tax breaks to companies if this is such a great place to come?
Well, oftentimes you're competing with these companies that would go to other cities and other states, particularly the large companies. They are being winded down, and if we want them, we're going to have to. But we run side saddle with the state of Tennessee. They do a lot of vetting of these companies. They give us that information. These are all the economic benefits for them either staying in our state or county, because you don't want to lose your job base,
Right.
or a new firm may be moving in, such as the case that occurred with Nissan 10 years ago. And then they give you they give you these indicators. Say, well, they'll spend this much in groceries and these cars and clothes, and generates all that sales tax. How many homes they buy, and they also tell you what the potential is for schools, more kids. You're really, as you and I as taxpayers, we live here. You're doing a rebate of their tax base. We call them a tax increment financing program or a pilot program. So in this one we're talking about, their taxes, they're rebating only about 48% of those taxes until they reach $2,100,000. In 10 years it's out. But they have to indicate how many jobs they're bringing. They have to certify that, and anytime they don't, we call those clawback provisions. Anytime you don't meet those clawbacks, you lose that tax credit. They're still paying, you're just rebating part of theirs. You could almost look at it as a way of saying, we want to help you come here, we encourage you to come here. This is our way of saying, we will be glad to help you using your tax dollars. Oh, by the way, you can't have any of our pennies for our schools. It's only the portion. So that $2.31, $1.29 is for schools. You can't have any of that. It's from the $1.30 to the $2.30. You got $1. Oh, by the way, you can't have the solid waste either. Or by the way, and so when it gets down to it, you are encouraging them under the county general portion of the dollars and cents to relocate to our county, and we think you'll like it. You will invest in our community, such as many of the companies have. Jackson National Life. I could go on, but there's about 10 of them. Majority of the companies that move here, we don't do anything for, and people say, well, is that fair and equitable? It is, and it is not. A small firm, startup company is a risk taker. These large corporations we got, they've been vetted out. They're done in Bradford. They're Moody's.
They've already established and proven themselves successful.
That's right. Now, do you make mistakes? Absolutely. Have we made any? We haven't tripped on that landmine yet because we've done so few of them, but sometimes you can get snowed. But by the time it goes through as many committees and has gone through the state and many hands and eyes have looked at it and reviewed it, it's it'd be very unusual that you did. But at the end of the day, Carole, and I've always said that as long as I've been involved, it is about jobs in your community. You have good jobs where your children, grandchildren, and mine can come back and go and work to live, then it's paid us dividends for the last 30 years. We're out of time.
We're out of time.
Bye.
Well, we are out of time. Hope you have a great next couple of weeks. Be safe this summer, and we'll see you next time on County Happenings.
Did you know that if you're between the ages of 12 and 18, you can join our teen advisory group? Join in on the fun. You'll get to pick books, anime, and DVDs for our collection, help us plan programs for the teen department, and work on special projects that cater to your interests and talents. Contact our teen department at 615-595-1278 for more details.